The rumors continue swirling about free agency, and you won't believe the player who finds himself in the Mammoth crosshairs now on today's Locked On Mammoth.
You are Locked On Mammoth, your daily podcast on the Utah Mammoth, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome in to Locked On Mammoth. I'm veteran NHL voice Tom Callahan, joined by longtime team analyst Robyn Leaño, and together we are the dynamic duo that brings you Locked On Mammoth every single day. Thanks for making us your first listen when it comes to all things Utah Mammoth. Free agency has been dominating the press around the Mammoth lately. A little bit of the draft, but really the consideration is, will they or won't they spend? And Robyn, with reports swirling right now, you're not going to believe the latest player to end up in the crosshairs. But as we take a look at this, conflicting is the easy way to put it, but I don't think it does it justice. Robyn, I'm pretty sure the Mammoth have been tied to every single free agent available in the summer at some point in the last week. Reports coming in from everywhere, and none of them seem to match up. What do you make of that?
It's really interesting, and I feel like it's hard to get a grasp of what the Mammoth are doing and how they plan on going. And free agency, because we're receiving a lot of different reports, right? What we're hearing, I mean, we've already heard. I mean, Bill Armstrong has pretty much been open about it, saying that we pretty much got an open checkbook, and we can spend and go after big fish if we need to. But we're also hearing reports from other like national reporters that that's not what they're doing. They're not going to make a quote big splash.
And the Utah Mammoth could play it either way. They could make a big splash. We have heard, Robyn, we even talked earlier this week on the show, well, the Mammoth's big splash, and everybody seems to be convinced there's a splash coming, right? We think there's a splash, but is it trading the number 4 pick? Is it trading roster players? Is it splashing in free agency? And again, nobody seems to be on the same page as to what they think the Mammoth are doing. So this is one of two things going on right now. Number one, Bill Armstrong is having a great time telling everybody different things and spinning everyone in different directions, which, by the way, I think would be hilarious if that was actually what he was doing. It would be kind of funny. But the other thing is, Robyn, no one knows what Bill Armstrong's strategy is. Everybody's guessing at what they think they might do because they haven't let that cat out of the bag. And to me, I think that's the more likely scenario.
I mean, I think the aspect of all of this, Tom, is Bill Armstrong and other Mammoth personnel talking about the schedule, right? Talking about the rebuild schedule. They don't want to rush the schedule. They don't want to go too far, or they don't want to just change up anything drastically. And I think that's the only thing that, to me, that I'm going to be hanging on and thinking that's going to be in their strategy. But the problem is everyone has a different opinion on what accelerates the schedule, what's on schedule, what's going backwards. No one agrees on that.
They don't. And now when it comes to spending in free agency, we have tossed out some of the big names. Obviously, Mitch Marner is always going to be in the conversation for anyone who has any money whatsoever in free agency, because he's the biggest name out there. But there's some other big names out there. I've talked a little about Nikolai Ehlers, and we're going to talk about him more in depth in a future episode.
We talked about Brock Besser. We talked about so many.
Yeah, absolutely. Because there's plenty that could be coming this way and could fill needs for the Mammoth. And the Athletics' James Myrtle was at the Combine and again heard, okay, Utah, Marner, Ehlers, what's been going around. But this name, and actually, Robyn, you and I talked about this already, and not that we glossed over it, but we just didn't go into it too deep at the time. But the newest one, and this is coming from yet another NHL insider, is Pierre LeBrun saying that he thinks Utah is going to be aggressive And one of the more serious suitors for, drum roll please, Florida's Sam Bennett. So Sam Bennett is a name we've mentioned before, and a guy who I think, and in fact, I would actually like to really get into what Utah could learn from Florida, because there's a lot. We won't do it on this episode, but that's a guy, glue guy, pot stirrer, likes to, shall we say, disrupt, but also talented forward.
Mm-hmm.
And Robyn, I think it's kind of mind blowing to see how the carousel continues to spin. This guy, this guy, this guy, this guy. The only thing anyone seems to agree on is that Utah wants change from what they had, and they want it to be something that is somewhat earth shaking. It's just, does it require spending money, or does it require trading assets, or does it require both?
Yeah, it's really interesting, because I feel like Utah hasn't done that yet. They haven't spent all the money in free agency. They've made, last summer, they made some free agent moves, and some really, really good ones, but they were depth pieces, right? Now they're looking at, making a bigger move, doing something like that. You mentioned Sam Bennett, and my interest was piqued, and I was like, okay, I like where this is going. I think that certainly could be for the team like a Mammoth, a very good fit. So I'm like, okay, I like where this is going. Let's keep talking. We'll see if we can find something that works.
Because if we talk about, quote unquote, the mold, right? Does Sam Bennett fit that mold? Well, he's 6'1", 194. He's 28 years old. And he is coming off a contract where he was being paid $4.425. If he decides to leave Florida, he's due a raise. But the points are not the point, if you will, with Sam Bennett. Had a great year this year, career high 51 points, career high in assists at 26, and his second best goal output at 25. He's been over 23 of the last 4 years. But that's not really what you're getting with Bennett. You are getting the feistiness. You are getting the gets under your skin, runs into you, parks himself in front of the net, is that guy. And I think, Robyn, if you're following me, and I think you were by all the thinking you were doing as soon as the name popped up, this guy sounds like a Bill Armstrong guy.
He is a Bill Armstrong guy. Absolutely. Like, it fits, like I said, fits the MO to a T. He's got the size, got the physicality. And kind of gets to those more high danger areas, but still has the skill, right? And I feel like that's the most important aspect of a Bill Armstrong kind of player, is they're getting the points, they're doing that, but they're also physical. It's not all physical, all beaters, not all just straight up Broad Street bully kind of style, but also not full on talent like a team full of, Leon Dreisaitl's or anything.
Well, don't get me wrong. I'd love a team full of Leon Dreisaitl's. Wouldn't that be wild?
That'd be something, yeah.
Ooh. But you know what? Here's the thing, too, is even if his raise takes him to, say, $6 million or a little more, I mean, that still fits in comfortably and gives Utah the room in the future to still be able to reward the guys who are coming up, as we talk about the Doans, the Coolies. If they want to keep Stenlund, they're going to have to spend after this upcoming season. And Hayton and Kerfoot, Michelli, they're all due up this year as far as the contracts they have right now. And those are decisions they're going to have to make. And on defense, they've got Cole now for one more year again. I think this is probably it for Ian Cole. So his 2.8 might not be there next year. Valimaki, whether or not he finishes the season here or not, $2 million, he's off the books. Kesselring has one more year. DeSimone they signed to bring back for another year. So there's flexibility there. I actually kind of like their contract situation going into it. So if you're going to give a long-termer right now, it's not a bad summer to do it.
It isn't a bad summer to do it. At the same time, though, I feel like a player like Sam Bennett is the one that, he'd love a long-term deal, but I think he'll take a midterm, not short, not long, not short, but a midterm deal with the right team. that gives the right enticement. So where he'd actually fit pretty well. And of course, the dollar value is worth it.
Yeah. And some players are willing to give up dollar for term. Some are willing to give up term for dollars. So,
Yep.
they'll trade one for another depending on what it is they really want. And at 28, you're right. Maybe Bennett says, okay, I'll take a 3-year deal. That way I sign my next and last contract, probably big deal. Then he'll look for term on that plus 30 deal to get him through to potential retirement age.
Yeah. That's either that, or again, it could be the opposite, where he's willing to sacrifice on a little bit on the dollar value for the longer term, because he's like, hey, I want to at least have some security until my mid-30s, that's when the career that's when I know when most players expect, not when I know, but when most players expect for their careers to start slowing down, but have some insurance, have some security. So, but we don't know that, obviously. I mean, it's something to take a look, to dive into a little bit further, but certainly would be worth the discussion.
Robyn, I'm going to give you a break to think about this question that I want to answer on the other side. That question is this: how important is it for the Utah Mammoth to have a true superstar? We'll discuss next on Locked On Mammoth. And today's show is brought to you in part by Wonderful Pistachios. Are you looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Well, crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, which gives you 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. You guys, long timers, the everydayers, and even if you're new, you're going to learn this about me. I'm a no shells guy because it's the grab and go. It's the on the roll. That's what I like. Sometimes I'm going to snack in the car whenever the hunger hits. I don't know if you know, we haven't discussed this. Why would we? But I'm mostly a low carb lifestyle person. So the Wonderful Pistachio slide just straight into that slot for me. I need a little kick. I pick up a pack, boom, at the desk, rolling in the car, wherever it is. They're perfect. If you're an in-shell person, that's fine. You can crack open every shell. You're going to love it. That satisfying crunchiness, I get it. But you know what? They're available either way. So get snacking and get cracking with a snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. So I'm Callahan and Robyn Leaño here with you on the Locked On Mammoth podcast. Thank you so much for joining us and making us your first listen each and every single day when it comes to the Utah Mammoth. And if you're still here and you haven't subscribed already, please do so. We have seen awesome growth, I dare say record growth for the show, leading into this period of free agency and the draft and everything going on. It is remarkable, Robyn, the interest in this hockey team, despite the fact that they haven't played a game since the middle of April. And kudos to this ever-growing and I guess, just increasing fan base. It's fantastic to see, and we really appreciate you guys.
Oh, yeah, no, it's absolutely great. And we're going into a very important time that I think a lot of people brings a lot of people in. Being able to talk about the draft, talk about free agency, to talk about prospect camp, or literally anything, because there's so much that happens in this off season. In hockey, there is no off season.
Honestly, with most sports anymore, there's no off season, but with
This
hockey,
is true.
you're always going. There is literally always something. Even in the middle of summer, we get through the Stanley Cup, the NHL awards. Then you have the draft, you have free agency, and free agency goes all the way through to the start of training camp. But then you also have prospect development camps, and you have, guys skating and talking about their summer workouts and all that. It just never stops. And
plus, there's also still a good portion of RFA negotiations, especially if those players are arbitration eligible. There's rookie camps, or rookie face-offs, I should say. And then that leads right into training camp. So it's never ending.
Yeah, absolutely. Just keeps on rolling. But hey, you know what? It gives us so much to talk about. Robyn, I'm going to argue, and our longtime everydayers who have followed since the Arizona Coyotes days will disagree with me on this. And that's fine. but we can go head to head on this. I don't think in recent memory that the Coyotes have had a true superstar. Now, Shane Doan is going to be the first guy that comes to mind, but I don't think Doan was a superstar. I think he was a franchise hero. Jeremy Roenick really became larger than life after he was done playing. Incredible player. But honestly, the biggest superstar Arizona ever had was when Wayne Gretzky coached. I don't think the Coyotes have ever had a player I would define as a true NHL superstar. Is that, number one, feel free to disagree with me, and that's fine. But number two, and my question, is it important for this franchise this summer, brand new in the Utah market, to get a superstar?
It's a good question. First off, you are correct. There were some good teams again. And for those that are wondering, again, like, I know a lot of you guys understand why we lump Arizona in with Utah. There's, even though two completely different franchises, technically, and in the history doesn't link over, this team is still somewhat the same. So we're using it as a going off point. But you are correct. The Arizona never really had a true superstar. They had some good players. You're right. They had some great players pass through. But no true superstar like that can come to my head. They had some that I think people thought, oh, maybe this player could be our savior, do whatever, but they really, sometimes it didn't come to anything.
And they were stars. Make no mistake, they were stars. But I'm talking a superstar. I'm talking on the Connor McDavid, Austin Matthews level of instant name recognition and appreciation across the league. That's what I'm talking about. And how important is that?
I'd say it's important to have one. I don't think it's important to rush into getting one, right? If you stumble upon one, if you get one to come your way, fantastic. However, I don't think it should be the end all be all, as I should say. Like, you're not going to like bend over backwards to get one. Is the point I'm getting at.
I think for this fan base, they would love some star power. And with all respect to the Utah Jazz, and I'm sorry, Jazz fans, give you some hope, give you something to look forward to and think that this team will continue to rise, because they are on the rise, but continue to rise and show you that they're willing to get there by doing the things that entail bringing in the next generation of great talent. Can you win a Stanley Cup without a superstar? Yes. And does having a superstar guarantee you a Stanley Cup? No. However, for the game in Utah and the fan base of the Mammoth, even if they're not in Utah, I think it is important that this team have a superstar to hitch their wagon to. And there is a possibility. Okay, Robyn, where were you going to go? Go ahead.
I was thinking in my head too. I had a kind of like a little bit of a return question, just so we can get an understanding, because you mentioned Connor McDavid and Austin Matthews, those kinds of players. But what I'm trying to think in my head is what is your category for superstar? Like, are you counting different generations? Are you counting let's say like your Jonathan Tays or Patrick Kane? Are you counting or like we already know Sidney Crosby, Alex Ovechkin, but where do you stop? Do you count Joe Thornton as a superstar? Do you count where are we at here?
So I think there's a couple of ways to look at it. Number one is you are a superstar if you're leading the league in scoring or in goaltending categories. You could be a superstar goaltender. I think that's a superstar, is someone who is top 3 in goals, top 3 in points. I'm also saying that a superstar is someone with marketability. someone who appears in commercials, which is why I don't think Jonathan Toews was ever a superstar. I think he was a star player, but the superstar on that team was Patrick Kane. It was not Jonathan Toews. Toews was a star player. He was a captain. He was a very good player, but he wasn't a superstar.
Okay.
So to me, it is global recognition, or at least North American recognition. It is marketability. It is the ability to put that player on a billboard in North Carolina and have Joe Average hockey fan who has watched 5 games all year know who that is. That's what I'm talking about.
So was Joe Thornton a superstar?
Not for me.
But he did check
He was
off
a
a lot of
star.
he checked off a lot of those boxes, though.
He did, and let me tell you something else, Robyn. You would have such a hard time, and by you, I mean all of you hockey playing people, you would have such a hard time getting into my Hall of Fame. Because to me, the Hall of Fame is not the Hall of Good, it's not the Hall of Great, it's the Hall of Fame. I think they're letting anybody in these days. So I am a lot more picky and a lot more stringent, I think, with my categorization of who I think is a superstar. Alex Ovechkin's a superstar. You know, Crosby's a superstar. People know who that player is immediately. No questions asked. So to me, those guys are superstars.
Okay.
There could be superstars down the road for Utah, too. There could be guys on the roster right now who could take that step.
I think Logan Cooley is very, very well on his way.
Cooley, Keller, Gunther, Sergachev. You know, they could be, but they're not there yet.
They're not there yet. No, they still have some ways to go. Keller's getting close. I feel like he's on the verge of something. I mean, heck, he just won a gold medal with Team USA in the World Championship.
Once Keller starts flirting with 50 goals, once Keller starts, over 100-point seasons, yeah, then we're going to talk about it. Absolutely. And I hope he gets there. I hope we do get to talk about it. All right. One more thing I do want to get to in the show here. Ben McCartney signed by the Utah Mammoth. I know, actually, I've seen a couple of questions pass us by on social about Ben McCartney. We're going to talk a little bit about him here, and then Robyn and I back to wrap things up on Locked On Mammoth. Tom Callahan, Robyn Leaño here with you. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you being here. Hey, if you like the show, tell your friends. Also, if you're watching on YouTube, hit the old thumbs up. Helps us with the algorithm, and it helps you find more great hockey content as well. So, Robyn, Ben McCartney, not a stranger to folks who've been following the team for a little while, especially those who pay attention to the farm system. But McCartney re-signed by the team here, and I mean, not an earth-shattering deal, right? Just kind of, but a guy that I think, how do I put this? I mean, someone that they care enough about to continue to develop, and they think can be someone that they can develop into a potential NHL player.
Yeah. I mean, it's really, you have to be very careful to kind of figure out the right words to describe a player who was drafted in the later rounds, right? That's what Ben McCartney was, right? He was he was a late round draft pick, a few years ago with the Arizona Coyotes, and very rarely do those players really amount to much. And again, it's not to their, it's not to say McCartney's bad or anything, but it's more of these players are going to take a little bit extra time to develop. That's one, but two, here's an important thing that to bring up is Ben McCartney was signing a 2-way deal. What we're expecting is he really is going to spend the majority of his career, and what it almost feels like in Tucson. Would I love to see him take the step up and get to Utah? Absolutely. I would love to see that. But I think right now it seems that he's going to be spending most of his time as a middle six guy for Tucson. And there's nothing wrong with that.
No, there's nothing wrong with that at all. And he's $775,000 cap hit, which is not a lot. Earned himself another deal here. And you take a look at He's only ever played 2 games in the NHL, and that was all the way back in 21-22. Spent all of last year with Tucson, as Robyn said, 63 games, 33 points. The thing to like, I think, about McCartney is it's been solid and steady improvement. In this past year, put up numbers we really haven't seen from McCartney since 21-22 with Tucson, where in 57 games, it was 18 goals, 17 assists, 35 points. This year with Tucson, 63 games, 16, 17 for 33. So returning to those numbers that got this team excited about his play in the first place, and he's still only 23. It's a 2-year deal. And, 6 foot, 198. I mean, there's probably holes in McCartney's game that they are continuing to work on and continuing to figure out what could be his role. But I mean, if potential future bottom 6 forward in a couple of years is not the worst thing to have.
No, it's not. I feel like it's it's a nice thing to look forward to, right? I mean, to at least say, hey, there's a guy who, could develop in the future, could be a solid 4th liner.
Yeah, exactly. And, looking at this, I mean, again, earned himself a 1-year deal last year and an extension and put up a good enough season that Utah brought him back again, which I think is big. So that means that they still see something in Ben McCartney as a prospect. And you know what? You can never be too short on players willing to pay the price, stand in front of the net, and just try to play a simple kind of hockey.
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody can be, Daisy McDangles. Some people are going to get in front of the net with a hard hat and the lunch pail and go to work.
Here's a thing, a little thought that popped, that came through my head, because it's very rare, but I love when it happens. 7th round gems. We want to see one, like how much would we love to see Utah to find one of those? Again, they're very rare, but there are a couple of NHL greats who have come out of the 7th round. So,
absolutely, Patrick Hornqvist in Nashville. I got to watch him. He was actually Mr. Irrelevant. He was the last player picked.
My favorite NHLer now retired is come straight at the 7th round. You know who you think you're thinking in your head. You're thinking, I know you know who
was it the player who you were incredibly distraught about when they announced that they were retiring earlier this year with Dallas?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I thought we were talking about. And that's oh my God, who was that? I remember us having the conversation, Robyn. All right, you got to bail me out. Show's I can't stay on the show for 20 more minutes.
Joe Pavelski.
Joe Pavelski, thank you. I don't know why I was not coming up with Pavelski's name. I could see him in the Sharks uniform. I could see him in the Dallas uniform. I remember us having the conversation. But yeah, you were distraught. It's okay.
Yeah.
Father Time is undefeated, Robyn.
He should have, but no, he was still playing well. Should have won a cup, though.
Well, maybe he'll come back now that Pete DeBoer isn't there anymore. Who knows?
As a coach?
So, that actually would be interesting. Pavelski would be
he would be a phenomenal coach, by the way.
Yeah. That's an interesting thought. Robyn, speaking of interesting thoughts, do you have anything you want to add to this spellbinding program?
No, I think that's about it.
All right, that's awesome. Hey, folks, if you want to reach out to us, we love your comments. You can drop them on the YouTube side, certainly. Or if you're listening to this on the podcast, you can reach out to us on Blue Sky. You can find us on Twitter and just about everywhere else on social media. Robyn, where can they find us?
Yeah, all of those at Locked On Mammoth. That's at Locked On Mammoth. If you need help spelling it, it is right down below if you're watching on YouTube, but it's at LOCKEDON Mammoth. So you can find me personally as well at Robyn_Leaño.
And I'm over on Blue Sky at Tom Talks and still maintaining a Twitter presence at Callahan on Air. Thanks for joining us, everybody. We absolutely love having you be a part of the show each and every single day. And for Robyn, I'm Tom. Thanks for listening to Locked On Mammoth.